Welcome to another episode of the Jay and Rob Toy Show. I'm your host, Rob McCallum, aka Rob McZob, and it is such a pleasure to be here with you and you and you and you for yet another lovely Monday evening to talk toys and whatever else we say we want to talk about because this is our show. And when I say we, I mean we got another person that I have to introduce, and that, of course, is the Adora to my Shira, Mr. Jay Bartlett. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Hey, what's up, big haircut?
Oh, well, don't shun me because I decided to join society. Isn't it time for you to have a haircut?
No, we were just talking. I think 2014 was the last time I had like shorter hair.
Oh, and what was her
2014,
name?
I think.
And what was her name?
I don't remember.
Uh-huh. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, the story about when I shaved my cut, when I shaved my head. We don't talk about that, but thank you for bringing it up on the air.
Hey,
Appreciate it.
That's what I'm here to do.
No, it looks great. I noticed on your post there was a lot of speculation. I think Ian said, "Oh, he just slicked it back or whatever and put some gel." Maybe that's Danny. I think Danny said that actually. They didn't believe that the legendary blonde locks came out with a hint of strawberry.
The locks are with a hint of strawberry scent. Yes, I am the strawberry shortcake of the show, I suppose, and you can be the purple pie man with your long fingers.
Sure.
I'm ready. I feel like it's been like 3 weeks since we recorded, and in fact has only been 7 days. How does this seem to go? I mean, I miss it. I know we're very busy in between, and this week we start production on 5 Favorite Figures after we had a big production meeting a few days ago.
Big hero meeting. Big Friday hero meeting. Mm-hmm. That was fun. So what Rob and I did, we had a weekly meeting, as we often do, on the phone. And we talked about the different episodes. I'm not going to give anything away. The different episode titles and the different figures that we wanted to bring into these 5 favorite figure lists. And then we went our own separate ways, and you made your list and I made my list. And originally we were going to show each other, but then you said the other day, "No, I'm not going to look at your list. Let's keep the element of surprise." I thought that was a really great idea. But my list is done, and I think yours is pretty much done. So
it's getting there. I mean, the thing is, this is a whole new concept. It's not like taking what we do now and then basically tweak it for a half-hour time slot on TV. 5 Favorite Figures is a brand new kind of monster, and we're toying with a bunch of different ways for it to roll out. At one point, I wanted viewer suggestions to say, "Hey, Jay and Rob, why don't you make a list around this?" Another point, I was going to do a randomizer. But this feels a little bit more pure and in spirit with the show, where we decide on a theme mutually, and then we go off and create a list as if like, okay, no, he fell for this. It's like jury selection. It's like, let's do this trial. It's the trial of, whatever it is, heroes or villains or whatever. And you go pick your jurors and I'll go pick my jurors. And then the judge, which are the kids in this case, get to decide, who's more accurate. So that's the fun part. And I mean, again, our big TV show, we're TV heroes now. Big TV toy guys. Watch out, here we come in the toy aisles. We're ready to start delivering a bunch of the other content too. And I'm killing some time right now to just bring up the project file so I can announce the episode topics for the Jay and Rob Toy Show TV edition.
Oh, we're doing that.
Can you tell them?
Yeah, let's do it.
I thought we could just announce the episode topics.
Yeah, sure. I think that's a great idea. We got
all right,
a bunch of people in chat, so that's great. I'm sure everyone wants to hear.
I will get to them when I decide I'm done. Let's start off. These are the episode orders now, because I've finally organized which way I want them to roll out, because we never know how they're going to go. Episode 1 is the rules of collecting. Now, anybody that's listened to this show and watched us week to week knows we have a lot of rules. So I thought, you know what, this is a really good episode to kind of bundle all our rules together. The second episode, Jay, is scale. What do you think?
You know what's funny? While you're going through this list, that the production or the shooting for that went so fast Dude, I don't even remember what the topics are. And then I remember I said this last week too. It was like, okay, well, we're done. We're done shooting. Friday's the last day. I'm like, we are? Like, did we even start? But yeah, keep going. I don't remember these.
Yeah, it was a whirlwind, and we're taking our time a little bit more with 5 favorite figures for a bunch of reasons. One, I know I have to source some of the figures that I don't necessarily have in my collection, but fit those themes a little perfectly. And two, it's a more complicated shoot, so it takes a little bit longer to produce than just a TV version of what you're seeing here.
Sure.
So scale was episode number 2. Packaging is episode number 3. Episode number 4 is collecting the same. So we've talked about that on this show before too, collecting the same figure over and over again, and why. Episode 5 is exclusives. We're talking online, retail, conventions, mail-aways.
That one was fun. I remember that.
Everything in between. Episode 6 was vehicles, which was a lot of fun.
Another great one.
Through all the different vehicles and how they work in some lines versus not other lines. I don't want to give too much away. Episode 7 was collecting by decade. Now, this episode was very hard to cut down. We talked for a long time about collecting decade by decade, trying to get us to where we are now, and the pros and cons of different evolutions and trends that emerged each decade. But it was good. So I look forward to people checking that one out. Episode 8, female action figures, which is, every case that you would get of a figure line in the 80s. It would have 4 He-Mans, 4 Skeletors, Trapjaw, Man-at-Arms, 1 Tila. So talking about that whole, the token female character for the lines in the 80s specifically, for some lines anyways, and how that's changed a lot now. So
thank God it episode.
Has. Yeah, totally. And then episode 9 is Star Wars Part 1.
Part 1.
Which makes episode 10 Star Wars Part 2.
Wow, so there
you go.
You did decide to go with those. Wow, I remember we did the 2 parts. Yeah, that one obviously was a ton of fun, I think, for both of us. Just to I mean, that's the one constant. I mean, I've collected my whole life. I've taken years off here and there, right? But Star Wars
collecting takes years off, that's for sure. It takes all the years off.
Star Wars was the constant where, no matter what, if I took a break from Joe's or Transformers, it was Star Wars never went away from me. So that one was a ton of fun. And we went back and forth on which IP we should do, and it really wasn't a question, I mean, Masters and Transformers I think were up there too, but it was, you got to do Star Wars. You have to.
Yeah, and it wasn't originally planned as a 2-parter, but the more we talked about it, we just ended up, doing vintage, everything up to 85 and then 95 on. And both of those shows were really long. So the good news is, if you're a Patreon backer, not only are you going to get every single one of those episodes doled out at some point to you, probably after we get legal approval, and then the sound mix gets in there, you'll get it kind of one. I don't know how often you'll get it, but you'll get them. But then you'll also get.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go along.
Pretty much, that's how we do things here. You'll get them at some point, but you'll also get, I think, 2 bonus episodes we did. 1 for sure, but there was at least 2, and then we can even look at doing longer cuts of some of these things, because some of these chats that we had back and forth were, like I said, an hour long, just going back and forth with different examples, weighing the pros and cons, agreeing with each other, disagreeing with each other.
And it's really, really interesting because I shot my portion in my studio here, and Dave, God bless Dave, our camera guy, he was at my place because just to make sure everything was right, because you couldn't be here in person, all that good pandemic stuff. And literally, I'm staring down the barrel of the camera for God knows how long we talked about whatever we talked about. And poor Dave, a couple times, he wasn't nodding off, but I could see he was tapping his foot because I know he was getting numb. And I started to feel bad. I'm because he can only hear the one side of the conversation. He can only hear what I'm saying. And I'm this poor guy. But hey, that's what he gets paid the big bucks for.
That's right. I was just going to say, that's how Dave makes the big bucks. He goes over to your house, has to break a sweat for 4 hours. Yeah. And then he gets to call it a day. He just has to hear one half of a dolly talk. And you know what? That's a pretty good life to live. Now, Dave is also, between 2 production shows, has created another awesome painted acrylic backdrop for us. So that'll be featured in 5 Favorite Figures. And I think I'm going to do all the figures on it. You're going to have a different color tone than I will, just like we did for Jay and Rob Toy Show when we do Action Figure Spotlight at the end.
Oh, sweet.
You'll see how some of the colors look a little bit different. I should probably show you an episode now that I think about it at some point. I'll get around to it. Maybe.
You know, whenever you feel like it, that's okay. I'll take
Well, you know what? Maybe I'll just let you watch it with everybody else. You know what, Jay? If you want to see the show, you become a Patreon backer, and I'll get them to you at some point.
Speaking of just watching it like everybody else, right now at Big Bad Toy Store, you can get the Blu-ray of Action Figure Adventure Season 1. And I can't tell you how excited I was to bring up that website to search our TV show and have it come up. And I might have ordered one just because I had to do it.
Really?
Well, it's in the cart. I haven't bought it yet. But the point is,
perfect sales pitch for everybody else.
The point is, right now, guys, Big Bad Toy Store, you can pick up your copy of Action Figure Adventure Season 1 right this second. It'll be at your door in a week, 2 weeks. However you pay for the shipping, that's how quick it'll be there. But it's there right now.
And I should say that there's probably only like 20 copies left, because you can actually check the drop-down menu of Big Bad Toy Store to see how many copies are left when they comes the books and stuff like that.
Wow.
In fact, Jay, I am going to bring it up right now, just to see.
Just to see what's left, yeah.
Just to see what's left. I'm guessing it's about 20.
What's the word for everyone out there for, you know, if we might do a second printing or not? Does that all depend still, or is this kind of it?
Oh, this is probably going to be it.
Yeah.
I mean, this would have to do incredibly well to warrant another run. Yeah, it looks like there's 22 left right now. So,
well, I got one in the cards, so that's 21.
Well, there you go. That's all the copies that are left in the wild. If you didn't back it on Kickstarter, our Kickstarter backers are starting to receive their discs. If you back the 4-disc version, the extra special that comes, you know, the 10 episodes for Season 1, 10 episodes of the after show that features so many of you that supported it, that's coming. We had to sign it all locally, as you saw probably on some of our social media. Jay signed it, I signed it, Kyla signed it, Tanya signed it, Dave signed it, and then it got shipped to Halifax for John to sign it, and now it's going to Justin in the Chicago area to sign it. Then it goes to LA, and then it gets packaged, and then it goes to our good friend Tater the Toy Guy in Texas, who's shipping out all our discs. So it's coming. It's coming your way eventually.
Really, really exciting. And I like you often do the alternate art, which is great. So, you know, we're big fans of collector's edition, you know, DVDs and video games and such. So to have an alternate cover is really cool as well.
We're getting some chat in the comments now. Some chat in the comments, of course. We're getting comments in the chat,
too.
Jay.
Yep.
Yeah, them as
too.
well. They're doing their thing with the words that they've got from the language of English. Shad, our good buddy Shad in Houston, says he got his today, which is awesome. Scott says his is in his pile of loot, which is great. Danny's asking, could you get the latecomers digital copies? And unfortunately, Danny, we have sold the distribution rights to Action Figure Adventure. We retain the disc rights. We may look at doing more in the future. It's just a costly endeavor to do it. And frankly, it's also a special thing to do. So when you back a Kickstarter, there's nothing I hate more than, you know, not having to put that money up front and then basically being able to get it at a cheaper cost or at 100% convenience. So there's a little bit about something, especially with this collector mentality that we got. We just can't kind of throw these things out there, and I don't want a garage full of, you know, DVDs and Blu-rays either. So it's costly, and we want to reward our backers. The only reason that some discs became available on Big Bad is, one, they offered to help us out, and two, we basically added extra discs to get to a price break when we were manufacturing them, so that we could save a few dollars to get them made in the first place. So that's where that is. Scott is threatening to do bootlegs of Action Figure Adventure. Well, Scott, you're a scumbag. Just kidding. Love you. What else is he saying? Who else is in the chat here? Whitney's saying hello. She would love to get a copy. Well, go to Big Bad Toy Store, Whitney Kovsky. Get it happening. Make it happen. Lisa's in the chat. She says, rock and roll, heart, rock and roll, horns. A Facebook user is saying, I did say that.
That's
and
Danny, I think. That's Danny.
Maybe. Jay the Toy Guy is saying, sup, guys, nice hair. Rob McCallum. That is me. Jay, we have a topic tonight. It's called What's New? Does it matter? Not really. What do you
Okay.
think?
Good night, everyone. Thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in. Actually, I got stuff to do anyway, so I'll see you.
Before we get to that, and I just realized this last week, we didn't have our patented trademark sponsorship available slot known as the icebreaker. So let me start it off with an icebreaker this week before we get to our exciting topic of what's new? Does it matter? The icebreaker for this week, Jay, is Easter just passed. Do you ever have any Easter toy memories associated with that holiday? Any toys that you ever got at Easter, or did you just get lots of chocolate bunnies, or did you do egg hunt type stuff?
Toy memories. I'm sure there was always some G.I. Joe everywhere. So I'm pretty sure I would have got one or two G.I. Joes. My biggest and most explosive Easter memory is 1990 when I received Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES. So I know that's not really a toy, but that memory is very special to me. Mom got me that. But specifically, I don't remember what figures, but I know it was Joe. There was no Star Wars, but it was G.I. Joe. How about you?
Yeah, one specific Easter I remember getting something toy related. There was probably more. My folks didn't really believe in loading me up with candy or anything like that. It just was never a thing at my house. I'd always get like 3 Cadbury cream eggs and a movie, or like a $20 something.
Yeah.
And I remember I got the Highway Haunter one year from the real Ghostbusters, which is the yellow bug praying mantis thing that roars up, of course.
Yeah.
And it was kind of hidden, like as part of the Easter egg hunt. Now I didn't have, a ton of eggs or anything to find, but it was fun going on that, and all of a sudden, like moving a chair back, and there was an egg on top of Highway Haunter. It was like, oh my god, that is wicked. It's like
cool.
I didn't expect it at all, but it was cool to kind of see that.
I remember. I was just gonna say, I remember Mom hiding the eggs, and I remember one year. I only vividly remember once or twice looking for the eggs, and I remember just telling her one year as a kid, I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. Can you not hide them anymore? And she never did. I just didn't like it. I didn't like the whole hide and seek thing.
Were you like anxious about not being able to find it? Because that's funny now that you're the guy from Action Figure Adventure going and hunting and looking for stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I also funny that you say that, because I didn't like being watched. As hilarious as that is, where the camera's on me 24/7. Back then, as a kid, I didn't like being watched, so I didn't like opening presents in front of people. I didn't like hunting for Easter eggs and having family members watching me. Strange little things like that, and thank goodness that stuff's no longer with me. I can open presents in front of anybody now. Bring them on. Send me some presents. I'll open them right in front of you. I promise.
But like you say in Nintendo Quest, don't you hate it? You know that feeling when somebody gives you a present and they're waiting for you to open it? Man, I hate that. Oh, I hate
that
it.
was in the production van on the way to see Todd.
Yeah.
We can't talk about it still, or can we talk about it?
No spoilers, Jay.
We went to see Todd, and it was dead silent in the van, and there was a reason for this. But I just started to feel awkward. I'm like, is anyone like gonna say anything? So our producer Jordan, Sarah, Rob, everyone was just kind of not saying anything. So I just started talking, and I was feeling very nervous for a very good reason. And I just started talking. I'm like, I feel nervous. And I was like, why? What's the feeling like? I'm like, when you open presents and people are watching you, that's what I feel like.
Oh,
the strange things that happen in this mind of mine. I cannot explain.
That's exactly what I wanted to happen. That's exactly what was supposed to happen. You're just going to start talking.
It worked.
It worked. Let's get to the new stuff that we're going to be talking about. And hello, Tim. Thanks for joining us in the chat. So what's new? Did you see that NECA on Twitter announced, Jay, there was 1,000 units, limited to 1,000 units of the 4-pack of the disguised TMNT cartoon figures. So these are the turtles with the rubber masks on their face, which are removable, and they've got the trench coats and like the jean or denim pants. They come as a 4-pack, and I think they're $100 for each one. something like that. Obviously different for Canadian dollars, but they had for one day only. I think it was April 1st. April 1st.
Was
They
it
were going to be
real?
limited on their eBay store.
Oh, okay. That's pretty funny. That's
Yeah.
pretty
What did you
funny.
think of that? Do you think that's a good joke to play on collectors who are
I
having an incredibly hard time getting these
yeah.
figures?
Of course, I think it's hilarious. I also like our buddy James posted about the new Orko cartoon, and he had me for a few seconds, and I was like, wait a second. And then I'm like, oh, it's James Enoch. Yeah, this is April 1st. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put down the social media for today. To get back to the NECA thing, I think it's great. I think it's in fun spirits. I'm sure there's some people that, their asses caught on fire with anger, but it's like, oh, it's just a joke, man. I think it's hilarious. I think it's great. I didn't
I got
see it,
upset.
so.
I got upset. I got way upset.
You believed it? Really? You believed it?
And what's silly, Jay? What's silly is, look, I have said to myself, like all collectors do, I don't need that. I don't need that piece. I don't need those 4 disguised turtles. I'm not loving it. I've got my, my 10 back characters, and that's all I need from the original run. I don't need that stuff. I don't like them. Sure, you get some alternate expressions with the different heads and stuff, but I don't need them. It's okay. And then, of course, I see the tweet come up as mail because I followed NECA, and so I get a mail from Twitter saying, here's all the, the highlights from people that came out there. And it's, April 1st. And I'm like, oh my God, what? I missed this? I was so irritated that I missed it because Twitter was delivering mail like 3 days later from when like popular tweets happened. And so I'm like I'm trying to find it. I'm researching stuff online and on Google. And it wasn't until today that I figured out the April 1st thing. And
it's
so
like 5 days later. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Why they got you, man? They caught you
They
slipping,
got me good,
as the cool guys say. Wow, that's
well.
There you go.
Yeah, I headline, just the headline got me, and I went for it, and that's that collector urge. I gotta get it now, fear of missing out. So they completely got me, and I guess I want them more than I thought. Now I should say I didn't spend like 5 days trying to find these things online. It was a couple searches here and there, but yeah, they got me.
So
you mentioned. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what's gonna happen now is everyone's gonna bitch and complain and say that's not funny, NECA. And NECA's going to turn around and make them just to save face. That's exactly what's going to happen. You watch. Mark my words.
Well, they've been teasing them coming out this spring for a while, so it's just a matter of where and how. Mm-hmm. And given it's a 4-pack, I don't know if it's going to be exclusive somewhere. It's kind of a niche version of the Turtles, so I'm hoping that they do online, or at least, ship in Canada to something like EB, where they seem to be more reliably available than having to go on eBay for the exclusive there.
Yeah, at least that EB, in Canada here, you can pre-order the stuff. I mean, that's, saves a lot of headache and a lot of stress. So that's a good thing. But I think a lot of the NECA stuff was Walmart. Target. Yeah. So if that's
a bit of both.
If that's the case, again, it's going to be a difficult one. And it might have to be the case, and it's going to be the case, of us just biting the bullet and having to go on eBay and pay the double value or whatever it is. But see, that's the problem. And I don't want to get into this whole thing again, but that's the problem. It's like, if we keep doing things like that, then these resellers are just going to keep thriving. So at some point we have to say no, divorce ourselves from having to get every single thing that's out there that we love and just say, hell no, I'm not going to pay that, man. That is ridiculous.
I agree. You're caught between wanting to get the figures that you want, but also the moral conundrum of like actually, drawing that line in the sand, where as a collector you deserve better. It's tough. I want to give a big shout out to Daniel Hook, who's catching this live for the first time. That's awesome that you're able to line up your schedule. I don't know if it's an Easter Monday thing for you and that's what made it available, but it's really great to have you on board and have you catch it for the first time live. I'm sorry to disappoint you with tonight's episode on what's new. Doesn't matter. You mentioned our good friend James Etoch, and there's something pretty special that's happening tomorrow for myself and I guess Mr. James Etoch by proxy. And this is definitely something new and something that does matter. And that is, of course, the Faking Filmation Kickstarter project goes live sometime in the morning. much like the Patreon backers getting the episodes of the Jay and Rob Toy Show. I don't quite know when it's going to go live in the morning. I think around 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be able to flip the switch or whatever. Now, Jay, you and I have talked a little bit about faking Filmation, not really too much in depth, to be honest. I rang you up and said, hey, are you down for an interview to talk about, cartoons? And you, of course, said...
Oh, of course. Of course I'm going to be in front of the camera now and, be part of another wonderful Rob McCallum project. I'd love to do that. And, of course, I love He-Man. So James's journey is quite interesting and quite relatable. So I'm looking forward to it.
What do you think about faking Filmation? Because it's a tough one. This guy has spent 3.5 years dedicating much of his life and working with a handful of volunteers that all love He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and they've created this ultimate love letter and homage that's almost a perfect fan film in terms of look, sound, feel. There's some fan service in it, but it could seamlessly fit in with the original canon.
Sure.
And the crux of the story is, of course, we're going to showcase how he made it, and it's a phenomenal skill set in order to do this. Just not everybody can do this. It takes a James Eatock to make a cartoon like that. But now he has barriers and obstacles to have this release. NBC Universal very specifically said, do not release this. This is our material. We own the rights to He-Man and the Masters Universe. If you release this publicly, we're going to fine you. What do you think James should do? Should James just hang it up and say, I'm good, I don't own this, you're right, and walk away? Or should he do something else?
Man, that's tough. And the problem is, Robin, we were talking about this when you were starting to write it. The problem I have, it's not a problem with it. The problem with what's going to happen is ultimately it's not his property. I've had a few projects in the past related to Star Wars. And without going into detail, I was told similar things where you can do this, but you can't do that. And you can do this, but you can't make a paycheck from it because it's not your IP. Ultimately, unless he becomes part of the writing team, it's going to be very difficult for him to do that. Because, unfortunately, as much as he loves Masters of the Universe, like you love Turtles, like I love Star Wars, blah, 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 they don't belong to us. So we can do stuff like this where we can talk about it. We can make nice little videos and stuff like that. But to make a full-fledged cartoon out of clips from existing episodes, by the way, is a phenomenal skill. You're absolutely right. Just to do that, I was just going to say, you're going to have some legal looking at you.
Well, sure. A couple things. He didn't just take clips from other episodes. What James has done is taken dialogue sound bites.
That's what I meant, the audio.
Yeah, from any of the 130 episodes and retraced poses from multiple episodes to combine and put together just a single scene.
It's beautiful.
To make it match. It's crazy, and everything's in HD. You've never seen He-Man look this clean and polished. It's incredible. Now, you're right. James doesn't own the IP to He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, but let's not forget the long history of fan fiction that exists. We've seen it with every major brand with stuff getting released. We've seen it with Star Wars. We've seen it with Batman recently raised, millions of dollars on crowdfunding to have a Batman fan film get made and have some real talent attached. We've seen it with Star Trek, with Axanar, and that raised a ton of big headlines. And Paramount finally said, okay, you can make fan films under these circumstances. And they made it very hard.
I guess if he's already, what I'm trying to say is if he's already got the warning, going back a bit, the first one to really let this happen that I remember was George Lucas. George allowed everybody, he put the different sound effects online for you to take and use. George loved it. He loved the fan stuff. It wasn't until Disney took over that the Iron Hammer came down and stopped all this stuff, which is garbage. If the creator of Star Wars is telling you it's okay, it's okay. So if James has already had the legal, hammer kind of waved in his face, I don't know, man. I'm rooting for him for sure. And there's always a way. You and I know that. There's got to be a way to get this out there.
Yeah, I firmly believe that there is a path to success here. I don't know what it is yet, and I don't know what James is willing to do for it. Given that he's made a 31-minute cartoon so far, I like on pure fandom and passion after, spending his whole life being shaped by, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe and She-Ra and of course Filmation. He's met Lou Scheimer. He sat in Lou's office. It's a fantastic story about how James got to from where he started to here to begin with. He doesn't want money for it. He said, the rights holders can have it. They can do whatever they want with it. He just wants it shown publicly, and he wants it out there, and he wants it officially endorsed so that people can enjoy it just for what it is. So we will see what happens if we're successfully funded, of course, on Kickstarter when it goes live on Tuesday, April 6th, probably around 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to check out what James will do with the return of Faker, this 31-minute homage, love letter to Filmation and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, get a digital copy, get a Blu-ray. There's a VHS tape we're offering for this one, Jay, a limited edition VHS tape. That's really cool. And if you love cartoons, of course, and if you're watching this, you're probably a toy fan, which means you also probably love the cartoons, at least associated with the toys. So you will probably like a lot of that stuff as well.
Yeah, I wish him all the best. I can't wait to see how the journey unfolds, and I know you guys are going to be successful. I mean, it's just the way it is, right?
Well, I certainly hope so. It would be nice to have another project, having looked at the world of video games a couple times now, toys and action figures, of course, heavy metal. Cartoons is that clear, obvious place for me to go. Maybe comic books down the road, but cartoons I've always held at a little bit higher regard, or at least they speak to me a little bit more than comic books. So it's the natural next stop on the pop culture journey for documentaries, and we'll see if this is the vehicle that gets us there. I did have a question from one of our Patreon backers, Jay, and I kind of wanted to throw it at you. A couple people have mentioned this. I think Nelson has mentioned it, and Danny has mentioned it, and that's about COVID collecting. It seems to be a new thing for people during COVID to get back into toys. Do you think this is something that's going to taper off? Is it new, or does it matter? Is it going to go away for some people? Is it just like something that they've done to bide the time?
I think it will certainly tone down when things get back to normal. And if you look at the United States, things are starting to get back to normal. Like they really are. And I'm very proud of how things have turned around there. Anyway, that aside, everyone has kind of grabbed onto something during this pandemic that brought them happy memories. I've seen a lot of childhood stuff. A ton of people are getting back into sports cards, Pokemon cards, video games, of course, and collecting toys. So I think it will slow down, but I think right now it's so heavy because, one, we can't go anywhere. So we're getting this stuff delivered to our house, and it's bringing us joy. It's taking us out of that misery and the fear for a couple minutes each day, and I think it's a great thing. I certainly don't want it to slow down. I know you and I won't slow down. In fact, we're going to kick it up to 88 miles per hour, and we're going to go further because we're going to be getting in the old van again. I can't wait for that. But I don't think I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it's going to slow down? Hard to say, man.
I don't think it'll slow down for the foreseeable future. I think if this is a bubble that has been inflated with collectors, that community will last a few years, because I don't think some of these restrictions that we're dealing with are all going to evaporate overnight. Canada is certainly in a completely different scenario than everybody in the US is. We've got, less than 15% of our population with one dose of the vaccine, which doesn't mean that people can't go toy hunting or buy stuff online. It just makes it a lot harder to get back to the toy collecting community and the staples of going to conventions and visiting different stores. It makes all that a little bit more difficult to do. I think people are going to be with it a little bit longer, especially as prices are high, and anytime that there's an influx of new collectors to the hobby, more stuff gets sold because people are buying, and then new stuff comes up because people are buying, and that gives guys like you and I a chance to see some stuff that maybe not would make it to the sales shelf, so to speak, if there wasn't more demand for some of this older stuff. So I think more collectors is good because that means more items are selling, and with more items selling, you get to see more of it out there.
Yeah, I agree. I I don't think there's anything wrong with new collectors at all, or people who are new to the hobby of collecting toys. I think it's wonderful, as we've seen it with our friend Nathan, who was a game collector, and he didn't really collect much, and now he's one of us, right? So
He went from being Nathan the gamer guy to Tater the toy guy.
Tater the toy guy, yeah.
He's going to be that sidekick character that appears in a few episodes on our adventures. I can just see it now, and they're going to have those like Tater fans,
I want to go to Texas and hang out with him and hang out with Shad again. I think that would be one hell of a time. I just can't wait to just get on the road and go anywhere, to be honest, at this point. Praying for a miracle. It certainly is really cool to see someone like Nathan get so excited about it through interacting with us and what we do, and see them kind of transform into this collector. I think it's wonderful. He just showcased the reissue of the 92 Joe base that he purchased, and me and him were talking back and forth about he's looking at buying certain lots online, and it's really exciting, man. And I love how this hobby is so friendly, and it's very contagious, and just a big community. It's great.
Now, one of the things that happened with the pandemic that happened 100 years ago was there was a bunch of new hobbies that started. So again, people got into different kinds of collecting, and people started, playing different kind of games, and a bunch of board games were developed in the late, 19 teens and early 1920s to help pass the time, which is pretty obvious. That kind of thing happens. That got me thinking about playtime. And as you and I were talking about different ways of playing and trying to come up with show notes, I thought maybe you and I could talk about some of our playtime memories and some of the different things that we used to do. Because, of course, you'd have the scenarios where we would play the movie or the TV show and have sort of whatever was happening. We got to stop Magneto, or, Shredder's done whatever. But then we came up with other stuff to do above and beyond the recreation or the new storylines. What are some of those games that you remember that we would play?
Well, if you're familiar with our show, or just myself and Rob, you've no doubt heard us talking about Mix Up. And what Mix Up was, and I'm sure a lot of you did this out there. I know some of you think it's kind of weird, but what we did was we loved all these different series so much that we mixed it up. We put everybody together in the same game, or the same, we would call them games, right? Like we would play, that would be a game. So we put all the guys together. So we put all the superpowers with the Transformers, with G.I. Joe, with Star Wars, with He-Man, and everyone kind of coexisted in the same universe. And that was a lot of fun, because that way, Rob likes Turtles more than I do. I like Joe more than he does. And that way we could always be the characters we wanted to be without having to strictly just play in that one world, within the confinements of that one world.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that is we both still knew like all the other shows, and we knew all the other characters, but the stuff that we got for Christmas or whatever we bought, was the stuff that we wanted. But, that gave you a chance to play with Turtles or He-Man stuff, and that gave me a chance to play with Transformers and Joe. Now, I think it's pretty common, like you said, for people to kind of mix characters. I don't think many of us had so many toys that, we were just going to play He-Man, or we were just going to play Turtles, or just play Ghostbusters. I think kids naturally kind of mash them together, even with the scale variances. But the game I loved most that we played, Jay, was Demo Bar.
Yeah.
Now, Demo Bar, and I remember this so clearly, and we were talking about this a couple months ago, and you had forgotten some of the details. Demo Bar was a game that you and our good friend, Heavy-Handed Darren, used to play. Yeah. And it would basically be kind of like Street Fighter, where you'd have everybody would have a different team, and you'd have like the DM, like the dungeon master, and you would have your team in front of you, and you'd have to put a guy forward, and then you'd have to pick a number between 1 and 20, and the 20 represented characters that were behind the shadow curtain. And then, so I would put like Wolverine forward, and I'd pick number 14, and then you or Darren would kind of count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 14, and it would be like Dr. Doom. And it's like, okay, here we go. And then the dungeon master or the Demo Bar guy would battle and fight them out almost like a wrestling match, and whoever survived got to go on like in Mortal Kombat and go forward. Yeah, I love that concept.
The DM guy had all the fun. He got to play with them all. The other two guys just sat there and watched it. Yeah.
No, but it was good because you
Yeah.
wondered if you could win and if your guy could go on. I mean, it's very much like so many other games and gameplay and game styles that are happening now. People watch gameplay on Twitch. It's the same reason that you and I watched wrestling and stuff because we each
Yeah.
had like the guys that we would root for and
Yeah.
sometimes act out while playing the video games during league night with our own belts and our entrance music.
Nope,
And
don't remember that.
don't remember that. Don't remember that at all. League night secrets. But yeah, that's the same thing. Sure, like the demo bar guy would get to kind of fight them and stuff, and the spectators would be disappointed. But it's Mortal Kombat with action figures.
And
It's fun.
I got nervous when Darren was the DM because he was heavy-handed. When characters, or should I say the toys, got punished, like just say it was like Magneto versus like Duke or something, like Duke would never stand a chance. That character got punished, man, and Darren would like throw the figure just to kind of accent how much more powerful Magneto was. So he would like blast him, and then he would just chuck the Joe across. And you and I were kind of like, okay, like, I mean, it was good. It was good action, but I remember a lot of the Joes, like the O-ring, were just, and back then, right? We didn't understand to take apart the figure. We were kids, right? So it's like when your O-ring was loose, like that Joe he was done, kind of thing. And thumbs broke, and weapons got lost, and it was so damn fun, though. So fun.
And there was always voices and like powers and special effects.
Yeah, so we didn't. I'm sure everyone does this, but we didn't just bash the two characters. We would become the character, and I always loved playing. So guys, I like Optimus Prime. I love doing his voice. I remember when the Toy Biz stuff came out, doing Thanos and Silver Surfer and stuff like that. So we became the characters, much like League Night Wrestling. So we'd act it out, and that was a lot of fun, man. I mean, that was, again, I'm sure everyone did that, but for me, it was like taking playtime to the highest level you could because you were physically becoming that character.
The other scenario that I love playing was basically like a Gauntlet challenge, and I remember playing this lots of times where, again, it's not a story, it's just here's where you start, here's where you got to go, and it's like a minefield constant run. So if you got to come downstairs, you don't know if there's people hiding behind like pillows and stuff that are going to ambush you. You don't know if little boats are going to come out and rescue you. You've just got to get to the point, the escape point, kind of, or if you're going to go bomb the Terradrome or whatever it is, like that, you've got to get to the goal, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen along the way. And so you start going with Snake Eyes or whatever, and you get the vehicles where you can get them and the boats and stuff, and then here comes Darren or you. It's like heavy-handed. Oh, there you go. And it's like,
you're like,
again, thrown across the room.
You like Snake Eyes, and all of a sudden Dr. Doom comes around the corner, and it's over. Like you're dead. At least I think Snake Eyes would get his ass kicked against Doom.
Yeah, that's pretty much where that ends. But I thought that would just be fun to share some of our playtime scenarios that we did and we probably have talked about them once or twice, but with everybody trying to figure out new ways to play to kill time, because playtime is the best time. It's funny how playtime evolves when you're a kid and how you quickly move from recreation of the cartoon episode or the movie to your own story, to mixing them up and then basically creating your own kind of game with the pieces that you've got. And that happened fairly frequently and fairly fluidly as well. It's not like we ever kind of sat around saying, "Oh, should we do demo bar? Or should we do mix up?" Or it was just like, "Well, let's just do this."
I remember our games, our play sessions going, they were really long. And we could only usually do once a day. And when Darren and when I would stay over at Darren's, we would do usually 2 a night. And I remember it being physically exhausted by the end of the night, just because the sound effects that came out of our mouth was so intense, and the explosions were so loud, and we were just so into it. It was like a play. It was almost like a play is what it was like. So by the time we did the end of 2 games, we were just wiped. And then we'd go play, Super Mario Brothers or whatever on the Nintendo. But I think you and I together, we did Masters of the Universe the most. That's at least what sticks out of my memory the most. And a lot of it was outside. That stuff was
I
just
remember.
great.
I remember a lot of superhero stuff with you, especially like the
Yeah,
early '90s stuff, the Toy
yeah,
Biz, the DC stuff.
yeah.
I remember a lot of that stuff, and I remember the play sessions being like 2 hours. And a couple times we would play, and then like I'd get called for dinner. I'd run home, eat it in 5 minutes, run back to your place, and we'd play. And then like the phone would ring. We'd look outside. We'd see that the sun had set, and it was my folks saying, "Robbie, you gotta come home. It's bedtime. It's a school night." And we'd be like, "Okay, we're like halfway through like this new epic mission, and we got to come up with a conclusion right away because we can't stop." And so, whatever happened. And it was still just as satisfying, but yeah, like drenched in sweat, like voices sore, and
Do
just
you remember
hard, man.
getting the new figure, whatever the new figure was of the week or the month or whenever we got toys? And that remember that guy was always like super strong. Do you remember
Yeah.
that? Like because we
It was
wanted
just like cartoon episodes, though,
we
right?
wanted to
Like
keep playing
anytime.
with them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I distinctly remember playing in our next door neighbor's backyard, playing with the Toy Biz X-Men. And
Yeah.
so I don't know why, but I had Cyclops in my pocket. And he had like, the little laser beam eyes. And like there was at a point where like the heroes were losing or whatever naturally. And I was like, but wait a second. Here he comes, shooting his beams, and he was flying somehow. And I was like, and like all of a sudden he was like the best guy.
That
And then
was
the next game, not so much.
that was like when Deadpool came out. I remember when Deadpool came on the scene. He made his debut in a comic called New Mutants, '98 to be specific. So there you go. And when Deadpool first got introduced, he was just a killer. He was like Weapon X, like Wolverine. He didn't have this Ryan Reynolds, Jim Carrey kind of personality, right? He was just an assassin. He was a ninja. So I remember when he came out, that's the Deadpool that I knew. And he was just so wicked because both of his swords could go in his back like Storm Shadow, except the backpack was molded onto the back, so you couldn't lose it. He had a dagger that sprung out of his hand, I remember. Oh, that Deadpool figure was just awesome. And an action figure adventure, I think that figure makes a debut. Or not a debut, but we see him for a brief glimpse. He gets donated because he was in that secret bin. Yeah. But
well, speaking of toys and new toys and the new heroes and being strong, I think we should get to action figure spotlight for this week. Jay, do you have some figures to pick? Is it just one you've got on deck, or
I have one. I have one that I want to showcase, and of course, going to plug my YouTube channel because right after this show, my new video will be up. It is based off of this figure. What would you guys say if I was to tell you that I could change your entire future with a simple book? What would you guys say? Would you be up for it? Of course, you need the time. You need a time machine too. But I continuing down the Back to the Future rabbit hole by NECA. This is the ultimate Biff Tannen. If you didn't know, this is the sports almanac that is the MacGuffin in the entire series, and this is Biff, 1955 Biff to be specific. And hopefully the glare is not so bad. We can see. I do an unboxing of this figure on my YouTube channel. That's going to drop at 9:30 right after this show. But guys, I know, Rob, you're not so super sold on this line, but let me tell you, man, the two figures that I have checked out are just absolutely gorgeous, and they are high-end collectibles with being reasonably priced, $240 Canadian for a figure of this caliber with all these accessories you get, and each one has a special cover, so you know it's them. So, guys, Biff Tannen.
Yeah, and definitely check out Jay's YouTube channel following the show, or if you're catching this later or on the audio side, just search Jay Bartlett. The Chef or The Exorcist is the wrong channel.
The Chef.
The Chef, that's the new one. Yeah, it's not that I don't know why I'm not hot on the line. It just doesn't do it for me to see those figures on a shelf the way that I get excited when I see a superhero or Masters. I think the playtime scenarios are just so limited in my head that it doesn't inspire me more than the movie already does. And if it's going to be bigger than the movie or an extension of the movie, it needs to kind of take it to the next level in my brain, and it just doesn't do it.
What's great though, I'm definitely storing him. I have him and Marty from '85 right now so far, and he's going to be stored on the shelf like this because that box art is absolutely gorgeous. And again,
Yeah.
with like most of the modern figures, you can take out the tray, right? So the figure comes right out, and he goes right back in. Slide him right back in. It's like nothing happened. So you can have your cake and eat it too. I recommend it, guys. Check out the Back to the Future figures. They're friggin' amazing. From one of the greatest films of all time.
I agree. Now, what I've got is a box here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Big box. Now, it's not an Amazon box, despite it looking and, well, clearly labeled as an Amazon box. This comes from my good friend, Mr. Josh Van Pelt. Now, this is something I picked up from him not that long ago. Unlike Justice Curry, I don't feel like I need gloves to examine the contents of this box because Josh is a pretty straight shooter. He's never filled boxes of junk up for me before, so I'm not that worried about what I might find in here. Now, I of course know what I've purchased, but and there's tons of packing, which is awesome. Now, I will tell you this. This is not necessarily, oh my goodness, an action figure, but it is relatable material.
I will allow it.
And it's funny that you hold up the Gray Sports Almanac, because I think this is a bit of an artifact itself and something that relates to the future. And not just any future of anybody, but...
Do you want me to play the drums? Drum roll?
1 second. I got to take this out of some plastic, and we're building up some hype here.
I would tell some jokes, but I don't know any to kind of break.
All right. Here we go. I'm going to remove the one sheet. So this is a TV show Bible, a pitch book. It's an original pitch book for Captain Power. So this is what was sent to different companies to pitch the concept as it originally appeared. There you go.
Wow,
that's kind of more straight there. So that's original art that you can see kind of illustrated there. And within the pages are basically character descriptions and episodes and story guidelines and what the locations are, like the power base. For example, here's a page on Blastar. It says, digitizer, shoulder mounted, is used to reduce sentient creatures to computer chips. The chips are then stored in a chest compartment for transport to the Overmind. Works like a swiveling ray gun. Has a proton bazooka, power charges, an energy leech, and electron blasters. So it's all the character bios as it was all originally, sorted out.
And was it always intended to be a live action? Because it looks pretty cartoony on the.
Yeah, it was always intended to be live action. But the whole, interactive screen part wasn't their decision. That came from Mattel. We're saying, we've got this technology that we want to showcase. Can we make it work for this show? And so they found a way to kind of do it. But yeah, just to see the kind of like that art, and it's printed on photo paper, which is nice. But that is just a phenomenal find. And given that I'm such a fan of the show, when I had the chance to pick up an actual pitch Bible for it, I couldn't pass it. This is, one of those historical artifacts or relics. So
that's a piece that, if you have the opportunity to purchase it within your means, that's the kind of thing that you don't pass up because you won't see that again. That's awesome. And
the part that killed me, because when Josh and I started talking, he was showcasing some other stuff. And I said, do you have any Captain Power material? And he's like, well, I just actually got rid of a bunch of stuff, and it was killing me because he had the concept. He had the concept art, like the stuff on that front cover there, but like all the different power suits, all the different villains and what they could look like all complete illustrations and stuff. But he had this left, and I said, you know what, I want it. I 100% want to watch it or read through it. And then, of course, I went back and watched the Captain Power documentary that's on YouTube. So if you guys are really into Captain Power and you want to know why I'm so excited by it and why it's cool and why Jay likes it as well, check out that documentary, and it's a little bit revealing of how it came to be and why it came to be.
Yeah, I got to check that out. Silver Knight Kyle, thank you for checking the video out after. I do appreciate that. And if you guys, I know a lot of you guys in chat love Captain Power. Tune in next week because I got something really, really special to showcase to Rob and you guys as well that I found in the basement of treasures. I think you guys will really, really like that. So tune in next week for our action figure spotlight. I can't wait to show off what I found down there.
Oh my goodness. I'm excited that we'll have back-to-back episodes with Captain Power references.
Well, it's pretty much in everyone anyway, so might as well join them.
The last thing I wanted to touch on before we go, Jay, and of course, we know everybody can find you on YouTube. Jay Bartlett, again, not the exorcist, not the chef. You've got lots of great reviews up there. It's my mission to get caught up with everything that you've to put up there as I do filming, and I just you have it on the background. So that's my new mission, to get caught up with some of your reviews. And everybody can find me basically just on our YouTube channel. If you find the Jay and Rob Toy Show on YouTube, just interact with me there. That just keeps things easy. But Jay, I wanted to talk to you about Disney Plus's brand new titles that are old favorites. And that, of course, is Battle for Endor and Caravan of Courage, plus some Star Wars Holiday Special cartoon selects, and all the talk that's happening online and questions of, are we going to get figures for Battle for Endor and Caravan of Courage? What do you think? Should we get them? Shouldn't we?
It's funny. The other month, actually 2 months ago, I was talking to Eric, who's actually Noah. No, sorry, Mace. He's Mace in the Caravan of whatever it's called, the Ewok one. I've been following him for a while, and I reached out to him, and we just started talking about it. And he's made his career just being Mace. You know, he calls himself the original Mace, right? The original Mace being in the Ewok movie. And I believe it's called the Vintage Collection on Disney Plus, which I also am a big fan of that title. I think it's great. I think it's really great. I like to see the holiday special. It's really funny, though, they didn't put any of the live action stuff. They just put the origin of Boba Fett. It's great, man. This stuff is not necessarily canon, but I think Disney is now starting to understand what the expanded universe means to us as fans of Star Wars. And there was a long period of time, a decade, when we had nothing but expanded universe. So when they abolished all that stuff, it was really insulting to us who had continued to follow Star Wars since the figure stopped in '85. I think it's wonderful. I haven't checked any of this stuff out now, but it'll be actually really nice to see the cartoon and crystal clear quality instead of the bootleg that's always on YouTube. Because the holiday special ever was only shown once. So that recording is literally the only one you can ever find on YouTube. People have cleaned it up, but it's still pretty grainy.
Yeah, and I had never watched Battle for Endor, and I haven't seen Caravan of Courage, but my son was watching Battle for Endor on the weekend. And it's actually not that bad. You know, I don't know why I was never hot on it before. I never took the time to go back and get it. I think it's one of those things that, for me, it only was available on bootlegs, and there just wasn't enough hype around it for me to kind of make the time for it. But it's a good, 80s fantasy, family-friendly kind of adventure, Ewoks and all that. But they're both Ewok movies, and they're both made within a year of each other, direct-to-home video. But what I really love, Jay, is the art that they've included for them on Disney Plus. With this, signature Star Wars kind of silver banding around it, taking the post art images from the theatrical posters and putting it there. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, okay, that deserves to be on a card back. We need to see these characters, even if there's only like 3 or 4 characters, released for each film. They now have the media to support the interest. And again, search any Star Wars groups, you're going to see people talking about this. How do we get these figures? When are they going to be coming out?
And we've had expanded universe figures since 1996, 1997. So it's nothing new to Star Wars. Up until this year, we got Darth Nihilus in the Black Series. So yeah, they can absolutely do it. I would love to see Noah, who's played by Wilford Brimley. I got his signature at a con a couple years ago, and he signed a Noah picture that he had. Right? I would love to see him as a figure. I think it would be amazing.
I agree. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it at that for another episode of the Jay and Rob Toy Show. Thanks again for watching, guys. We never know where these conversations are going to go. So what's new? Doesn't matter. Well, what's new is this was a new episode and a new chance for us to hang out and talk with you, which is always nice. And hopefully you enjoyed our Playtime Memory discussion. And if not, there'll be another episode next week Does it matter? Yes, it does matter. Jay, you've already said people can find you on your YouTube channel, which is great. People can interact with me here on our YouTube channel for the Jay and Rob Toy Show. Let's end it like we end all our episodes, Jay. For the love of toys and the warmth of scarves, take care of yourself. And
each other. And sorry I don't have a scarf on this week. I apologize.
It's officially over at this point. That's the thing. We got to strike that line now. But the good news is playtime is what, Jay?
Playtime is always the best time.
That's right. Take care, everyone. We love you. We'll see you. Take those selfies and send them our way. Cheers.